People all over the world are still reeling in shock, and we can only imagine the horror that the families are enduring right now because of the attack by devout Muslims on the newspaper in France. Today we're going to look at America's reaction to this barbaric attack and focus a little bit more on Islam.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Friend, please accept what I'm about to tell you at face value. I have a master's degree in diplomacy and international terrorism from a military school, Norwich University, a very old and prestigious school. And much of my study was on Islam and Islamic terrorism. You can see a lot of my research at our website. My bachelor's degree is from the State University of New York in communications. I have been in the broadcast industry since the late 1980s. In addition to all of my activist work and writing books, etc., I've been in radio and or television for the better part of a quarter century. And I've been a guest on 60 Minutes, Oprah, Donahue. I've been interviewed by Dan Rather. So I understand the communications industry. And in many ways, I'm an insider. And so I'm going to talk to you about what President Obama did yesterday. And I'm going to let you know right up front that it was despicable. The president's response and how they set this up was despicable. And it was designed for something. I'm going to play the clip right now, and you watch and you listen and let your mind, try to engage and say, well, what's going on here? And then we'll talk about it. All right, here's the clip.
France is one of our oldest allies, our strongest allies. They have been with us at every moment when we've, from 9/11 on, in dealing with some of the terrorist organizations around the world that threaten us. For us to see the kind of cowardly, evil attacks that took place today, I think reinforces once again why it's so important for us to stand in solidarity with them, just as they stand in solidarity with us. The fact that this was an attack on journalists, attack on our free press, also underscores the degree to which these terrorists fear freedom.
All right. When the attack took place, they had the podium set up, and they said the president's about to come and make a comment. Well, he never came. They put it off for a long time. And then they gave us this. You can barely hear it. Now mind you, why is that important? Because for the president to be on television and to have those images played all over the world sends a message to Islamic terrorists. The president of the United States did not want clips of him condemning Islamic terrorism played around the United States. So they set Joe Biden and him in this room where they know that the audio is horrible. They know that there's going to be cameras clicking, hundreds of click, 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 click. You can barely hear what he's saying. All right, so that's number one. Number two, it was drivel. France is an old ally, and this strengthens our resolve. Blah, blah. Look at what he didn't say. He didn't say Islam one time. Did not say Islamic terrorism. Did not say Muslim terrorists. There's nothing in his words that could be taken out and then sent as a challenge to Muslim terrorists anywhere in the world. Nothing. And then his line, this shows how much they hate freedom. They don't hate freedom. They don't hate freedom. This was an attack that was about avenging Muhammad. Here, I want you to see some of these cartoons, all right? I don't speak French, but here's some of the cartoons that the newspaper ran. We are running them on this television show because we have a duty before God and man to resist this evil, the blight of true, ancient, orthodox Islam. All right? This nonsense about moderate Islam versus radical Islam, these are not distinctions that the Islamic world makes. This is a creation. These words are a creation of the West to try and grapple with how do we deal with this religion, this philosophical blueprint. But the Muslims don't have moderate Muslims versus devout Muslims or orthodox or violent. It's Islam, people. It's Islam. And the President of the United States, this cowardly, cowardly man who has already bowed to the king of Saudi Arabia. Remember that picture? There he is. He's got an affinity with the Muslim world. I don't fully understand it. Might be from his childhood, might be from his dad. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that he is not defining the enemy. He is not confronting the enemy. And he is not truly standing in solidarity with the French and with this newspaper. I'll continue explaining what I mean when we come back from this break. Please stay with me.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
The president, in his little clip, said it was particularly bad that they went after journalists. Really slow, no oomph. Well, maybe he recognizes that people have already dug up the clip where 2 years ago the White House questioned the judgment of this French newspaper. I mean, look, the New York Times, they're not running they're not showing you the cartoons. Washington Post is not showing you the cartoons. They've already caved in. They've already bowed the knee in fear. And either Obama is bowing the knee in fear, or he is so connected to Islamic terrorists, on the empathy level and trying to understand it. I don't know what it is, whatever it is. He's so connected to them that he literally did not have the decency and the integrity to say the words Islamic terrorists or Muslim terrorists. He talked about terrorist organizations around the world. He said this strengthens our resolve. No, it doesn't. If it does, Mr. Obama, then encourage the press in America to use that freedom of press. Encourage them to run the cartoons. Islam is a blight. Oh, Randall, that's such a harsh phrase. Well, many of us are hostages to the moment. Hostages to the moment. And by that, what I mean is, there's only so many minutes in a day. There's only so much time that we have to think, to look, to act. And there's so much data coming at us so fast, crowding in on our brain, that the ability to sit and ponder and process and make associations and connect dots, that critical element of analytical thought is being lost. Add to that People don't read books as much as they used to. They don't read big books. They certainly, many people don't study history. Now, I'm not trying to be unkind to you. I'm thankful that you're watching this show. I'm thankful that you're with me. But if you want to understand Islam, you're not going to get it in a day. You're not going to get it in a week. You could start by reading the Quran, but that would only be a start. It would only be a start. I mean, if you read the Quran, I mean, truly sit down and read it from cover to cover. You're going to be appalled by what you see. Some of it is very beautiful. There's some very beautiful poetry there. And praise to Allah, which is the Arabic word for God. But you're not going to learn it by just reading the Quran. It's a system, all right? It involves the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah, the 4 major Sunni schools of thought that gave us Sharia law, or gave the world Sharia law. It's a body, a philosophy with rules, exegetical rules, hermeneutical rules. And to learn Islam, to study Islam on Islam's terms, does not happen quickly. Now, by the way, if you are interested in looking online, go to our website, voiceofresistance.com, and watch the TV series that we did. We did a 9-part series called What Would Muhammad Do? To understand Islam, you have to look at the life of Muhammad. And if you look at what Islamic people do, devout Muslims, if you look at what the religion of Islam commands and demands, you have to see it through the eyes and the life of Muhammad. All right? Muhammad is the problem. Muhammad is the issue. Muhammad is the fountain from which all of this bloodshed stems. And it's the exact thing that leaders like Obama are afraid to address. And the editor of this newspaper, God rest his soul, he said, I would rather die standing than live on my knees. God save us. He had the courage. He did it. You'll note that Obama said, well, the fact that this attack came against journalists, these people fear freedom. It's not freedom that they fear. Obama can't even define freedom. The word freedom has a context that is philosophical and religious. Okay? A Marxist says that freedom is to be free from the capitalist pigs that keep us all subservient to money. All right? Obama says that freedom is freedom from worry, freedom from want, the ability to go to college on someone else's dime. The Chinese talk about freedom, and they mock the Universal Human Rights Covenant at the United Nations, and they talk about to be free from worry and to be free from want, and that they're working to feed all of their people on the government dime. Muslims believe in freedom. It's just their definition of freedom. And Obama's definition of freedom is actually slavery. He is a slave driver. I mean, look, he's trying to force Christian organizations to pay for the murder of babies. If that's not slavery, I don't know what is. So Obama's pathetic response shows the level of ineptness and I think some wicked, evil affinity with the Muslim world. Whatever it is, I don't know, but I'm telling you, his response was drivel, and it was outrageous. It was an outrage. I'll be right back. I've got a couple other things I want to share with you. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. Our Secretary of State, John Kerry, followed the script, the White House script, that they would not use the word Muslim terrorist, Islamic terrorist at all. In fact, Kerry didn't even use the word terrorist. He said these people, murderous acts. I want to play a clip to show the bizarre babble of Kerry and the coordinated effort of the White House to not have people start to wake up and realize Islam itself is the threat. Watch this.
I agree with the French imam who today called the slain journalists martyrs for liberty. The murderers dared proclaim Charlie Hebdo is dead. But make no mistake, they are wrong. Today, tomorrow, in Paris, in France, or across the world, the freedom of expression that this magazine, no matter what your feelings were about it, the freedom of expression that it represented is not able to be killed by this kind of act of terror. On the contrary, it will never be eradicated by any act of terror. What they don't understand, what these people who do these things don't understand, is they will only strengthen the commitment to that freedom and our commitment to a civilized world.
All right, so we've got no clash of civilizations, that we have freedom, and we have something bigger than the pen, the idea that we're never going to cower to these things, we're never going to stop. We already have cowered, John. We've already cowered. The New York Times and the Washington Post, the LA Times, they're not showing the cartoons. They decided back when the Danish cartoon crisis happened that they would not show the cartoons. Folks, what I'm trying to say to you, and I need to calm down, is he's lying. John Kerry is lying. Obama is lying. When they say we won't be intimidated, baloney, you already have been intimidated. You won't even say the word Muslim terrorist. He puts a shout out to the imam of France who says, I agree with the imam, who says, the imam also threatened that magazine 2 years ago. The Charlie Hebdo magazine, the imam of France said, look guys, stop, because if you don't, you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. Maybe it's a threat, maybe it's not. Sounds a little bit prophetically ominous. And when Boehner says we're not in a clash of civilizations, as he did yesterday, he's lying. He's lying, okay? Now, it's possible, it's unlikely, but it's possible that he's actually never studied the history of Islam, beginning with Muhammad himself. And by the way, I am so sick of people saying the Prophet Muhammad. All right, he was a false prophet. All right, the Bible speaks of prophets and false prophets. A false prophet is someone who turns you away from the true God to follow a corrupted version of God or a corrupted message from God or different gods. Okay? So if you want to say that Allah, the Arabic word for God, if you want to say that the Allah of the Quran is a corruption of the Jewish and Christian God, the Blessed Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, our Lord Jesus Christ as being God the Son and the Son of God. If you want to say that Allah is a corruption of that, like Jehovah's Witnesses have a corruption or Mormons have a corruption, fine. All right, I'm okay with that. You could look at it as a corruption of the true faith, just like certain cults have corrupted the true faith before. Whether you look at it like that or whether you say that Allah to them is some moon god or whatever, like some people do, the issue is there is such a thing as Islamic civilization. And there is such a thing as Christian civilization. And there is such a thing as Marxist civilization, okay? And the Muslim civilization, all right, the body politic, the civilized or the laws that govern the state, Islamic civilization and Christian civilization have been at conflict with each other for almost 1,400 years. To say otherwise is a lie. John Kerry is lying to us. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. We have put together what we call an online university for you. Now that's a highfalutin way of saying that we have a pretty significant library of material, books, tapes, videos that are there for you for free. Why are we doing this? Because America is desperate for new leaders, and because this material could help you to become the leader that you and God want you to be. Check it out and enjoy it. Success cannot be guaranteed. There are no safe battles. Sir Winston Churchill. If you want some comedic relief in the midst of all this, which it really isn't funny, think with me about the fact that this president, whose White House has criticized that French newspaper, by the way, where all those people were just murdered by devout Muslims. He said we'll have the most transparent, open to the press, but the press are complaining that he is the most closed presidency. He's been the most hostile to the press, and his White House and Eric Holder have spied on members of the press, okay? This is not a president who is a friend of the free press. That's why he and Kerry have been so tepid. I mean, look, the President of the United States could have stood up and said, we decry this act of Muslim terrorism. And perhaps Muslims recognize that Muhammad did authorize the murder of people. Nah, this is fantasy. He's not going to do that. If you want to see. Oh, and by the way, the president, of course, went to Sony and said, no, don't be afraid. Show the film. Show the film. The interview in which the two reporters end up assassinating the leader of North Korea. Obama said, don't be afraid, show the film. Because that's a little dog. And Obama's not afraid of any North Korean assets anywhere. But when it comes to when it's mocking a North Korean leader, a despot, no problem. But when it comes to mocking a despot named Mohammed, a man with arguably at least as evil and oppressive a iron fist against Christians, against Jews, against women, as the leader of North Korea. I mean, Mohammed authorized capturing slave women and having sex with them. He had his own sex slave concubines, for goodness sake. So, you know, if you're going to mock the guy from North Korea, why not have a parody here, Mr. Obama? But that would be logical. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to you about something historic. Greek history, Roman history, and Islamic history. Just do a calm connecting of the dots. In the meantime, if you want to learn about Islam, go to our website, look at the papers that I use, and then look at the footnotes and the references, and go to those books. Go to the Islamic sources and read them for yourself. Read The Life of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq. You'll know more than Obama and Kerry put together.